Not you're live. Yeah, I think I'm live right now. Just hold on. Let me just first confirm. Am I live? Yeah. So I'm live. So basically, we're talking about the snap paper. Verbal seemed to be on the easier side. Okay. Logic also was doable, except maybe a few questions on series seemed to be tough. Quant was supposed to be time consuming, okay, a little bit more calculative. So Quant was time consuming. So that means it made sense to leave out Quant questions in the end. First, focus on completing verbal logic, as many questions as possible, whatever easy questions, and then look at the easy questions of Quant and then solve. That would be the idea. Because normally what happens in Snap is one of the sections are normally lengthier. If one of the sections are normally lengthier, so it makes sense to skip that question for the end and focus on the other two sections. So it's normally either the logic or the quant section lengthy. So this time quant section seems to be a little lengthier as compared to the other section. So the proper strategy would have been to leave the quant section aside and do the verbal and logic first. Cutoff maybe around the similar to maybe previous case, around 40, 42 would be could be the cutoff for SIBM Pune is what is expected from the first lot. We'll have to wait and see for more reviews. If you feel you have anything, please put it in the chat box and we will look at it. So we'll discuss on a type of questions that have come in the examination. Um Verbal was comparatively on the uh, easier side, as I said. I mean, there were no time consuming sums, so there were no RCs, no figure of speech, okay, and no parajumbles. If you look at no RCs, no figure of speech, no parajumbles. So it was mainly, I mean, simple questions. I mean, there were word usage questions, okay. Then there was preposition, conjunction, question on tenses, question on direct indirect speech, right? So something that would not take time. I mean, direct indirect speech would be what? Yeah. So all the questions were something which would not take time. I mean, more of grammar and vocabulary was what was the focus on. Because as I said, no time consuming questions, no paradigms, no figure of speech, and no RC. Also, a question on spelling. Yeah, a question on spelling as well. What is a spelling mistake? So yeah, this is more or less what we talk about. One synonym question, I believe. So this is what verbal was. So there was no time consuming question. So you could go through fast in the verbal section, do whatever you could and then solve, and it would not be a problem. Logic, there was no group question, all were individual questions. So there were supposed to be 7 to 8 questions on verbal reasoning. The verbal reasoning would include questions like assumption, conclusion, course of action, right? And arguments. So basically, verbal reasoning. They were cause and effect. There were also question on DM decision making question, like the way in Narsimonji NM paper, the DM decision making question. Given the situation, what the best course you could take across? What the best in a situation? What would be the best thing that you could do? Like a decision making question, like the way it was in NM paper. I mean, NM has recently introduced that questions. So there were 2 or 3 questions of that type in logic. So quite a bit of verbal reasoning type of question that was there in logic. Apart from that, there were coding decoding question. Okay, there was a series question. Series were a little difficult. Around two questions of each. Around there were blood relation questions. There was one question on input output. Okay, one question on input output. Not difficult, but there was a one question input output which was there. Okay, and that's how you would say logic question was input output one, blood relation two, and so on. No question on direction. So direction was missing. Okay, no question on direction. Now coming to the con section was time consuming. So you had a question on profit and loss, you had question on percentages, you had question on average, you had question on permutation combination, okay, um, and so on. Apart from that, there was one question on clock. Okay, no question on calendar. I think in the logic question there was one question on clock and no question on calendar, which was there, right? There, in the verbal section, there was one question on compound words. Okay. I'm just putting up whatever question I'm getting as such. Assertive statement. Choose which one of the statement is assertive. To assertive statement. Okay. Then there was in Quant, there was one question mixtures. Okay. Then one question also on time and no question time and work. Okay, time and work. Normally time and work we normally find in these questions, but this was missing here. Geometry equilateral triangle was there. Okay, equilateral triangle. There's also one syllogism question in logic. Okay, so this is a brief idea in terms of what are type of question that came into picture. I mean, if you look at it, so what are the type of question that came into the whole exam? So I will repeat this again. Just give me a minute. I'm just trying to get more information regarding the whole thing, and then maybe we will go ahead with it. Yeah. Yeah, so if you have any inputs you mentioned, I'm repeating it again. The verbal questions were comparatively okay. There was no problem in verbal questions. Less time consuming, could have been solved faster, could have been done easily. The questions that came were compound words, word usage, preposition, conjunction, more grammar and verbal form and vocabulary questions. Okay, there were questions on QA was lengthy. Yes, Dipanshi, QA was lengthy, so QA could be left. Tenses, direct indirect speech, spelling, synonym. So these are type of question that came. No RCs, no figure of speech, no para jumbles as far as verbal question. Easy, speed based, could have been done easily fast. I mean, should have spent around 5 or 6 minutes, not more than that. If I look at logic, was also doable, except for series questions which were a little tough. There were around 7 to 8 questions on verbal reasoning, which include assumption, conclusion, course of action, cause and effect, arguments, etc. So these were 7 to 8. There was also question like decision making question that came in NMAT, around 2 to 3 questions on that. Decoding, couple of questions. Series, couple of questions. Blood relation, input, output, clock, syllogism. These were a type of question that came in the exam. What did not come was no direction question, no calendar question. Okay, no direction, no